episode of the Minnesota Rack Stars podcast, and today we have probably the most special podcast that I have ever recorded with anyone, bar none. Today we have Ryan Beierman with us today, and he's doing something that is very difficult, and that is retelling the story of the day that he was attacked by a bear while he was with his son out hunting. And it's definitely an episode you're going to want to listen to. It was, not going to lie, it was kind of hard recording this with Ryan, knowing that it was probably going to be emotional. I was probably a little more emotional than he was in some regard, but it's a very engaging podcast, to say the least, once we really get into the meat and potatoes of it, coming down to that day when this whole event happened. But in speaking with Ryan after the podcast, he said he doesn't really like talking about this, but if it can help him and help other hunters, if it can save one hunter from being in the same situation, it is totally worth it. So I tip my cap to Ryan for coming on here with me and sharing his story, to not just share this situation, but to educate others, and like he said, to not make the same mistake that he did. So at the end of the podcast, I'll kind of hit on some of the things he talked to me about in person, about or not in person, but on the phone after the fact, but just some of the things that he thought should be mentioned to all the listeners, and especially if you're a bear hunter, just some of the things to keep in mind moving forward, so that you don't end up in a similar situation. But I hope you guys enjoy it, and like I said, thanks to Ryan for coming on here with me and doing this podcast. I know you guys are going to enjoy it, so without any further ado, let's get to the podcast here. Hey, before we get started here, if you haven't already heard, we have started up our own apparel store. If you're looking to get some sweet Minnesota Rack Star apparel, so check it out on the Facebook page. We have the link down there. Also on our website, go check that out. Hats, mugs, sweatpants, sweat t-shirts. It's pretty so. Hope you guys check it out, and let's get going with the podcast. Hey, well, thanks for joining us here, everybody. I am here with my guest this week. It is Ryan Beierman. Ryan, thanks for joining me. I truly do appreciate it. I know it's tough with work schedules and everything else. Trying to work things out to make things go here, but I know we're texting back and forth, and I was actually working my second job. So I teach, and then after teaching in the spring and fall, I go right on the lawnmower. I got my own little lawn mowing business. So then I'm mowing lawns, and I was mowing lawns. I'm like, whatever time you can make it work, I'll make work. So I stopped mowing lawns so I could be here with you, because I think your story is worth sharing. I think there's so many people that are going to be interested in this story. So thank you for making time on your end to join me today. Before we get started doing anything, why don't you just kind of give our listeners a little introduction of yourself, who you are, and kind of what you do for a living.
Ryan Beierman, business agent for Teamsters Local 120. Had 22-and-a-half-year career at Marathon Oil in St. Paul Park, Minnesota. We live in River Falls, Wisconsin. I grew up in central Minnesota. Some people might say I never grew up. But
You and I both. So when did you end up moving to Wisconsin?
Senior year of high school.
Okay.
Moved down here and met my bride and lived happily ever after.
There you go. The rest is history. Sweet. It's crazy. I know. I was thinking today, like, I don't know. There's so many things. There's so many unknowns in life. You never know what the next step in your journey is going to be. And back in the day, you probably never thought you'd be out in Wisconsin. And myself,
Nope.
Here, just being where I am at, I would never thought in a million years I'd be living where I am today.
Yeah, and like you said, growing up, I never thought I was going to leave.
So I see behind you there, you got a bunch of fish on the wall. You a fisherman?
Fishing and hunting. I mean, watch Steve Rinella, but hunting and fishing, it was part of life, and still is.
So tell me, what's the biggest fish you got on the wall back there?
16-inch crappies.
Was that Minnesota or Wisconsin?
Wisconsin.
Darn. I've always heard that Wisconsin is the place to go hunting and Minnesota is the place to go fishing, but I might have to make a trip over there. Why don't you kind of give us a little, I don't know, insight on whether it's fishing or hunting, some of your first memories of way back when it comes to the outdoors.
Fishing, going down to the Skunk River, fishing skunk, and walking down the Fish Lake, and about right outside of Piers and Genola there, and taking the BB gun out behind the farm and shooting birds and squirrels and whatever we could find.
So many of you don't know this, but Ryan, like you said, kind of his first memories are around the area where I grew up and where I, currently live back in this area. And that's kind of how I was, I don't know, given insight on Ryan's story here. His father still lives in our hometown here. And my mother actually sent me the article, and I'm like, I got to reach out to Ryan because this is an absolutely crazy, crazy story that I'm very fortunate that you're willing to share with all of us. But as far as bear goes, we'll kind of go down the bear path here. What is the population like out in your neck of the woods where you go hunting?
It's actually crazy at times. Like the other day, I had 4 to 6 different bears come through the west side of my property. I got some pictures on the west side of my property, and I got some in the center of my property. Probably I would say a 300-pound boar is what I figured. It was the biggest that I seen on camera that day. But yeah, I mean, we got a pretty substantial bear population where I'm at.
How many acres do you guys have there that you hunt?
I got 55. Go back and forth with the neighbors. I hunt my neighbors 40 for bear, and other neighbors 40 for archery hunting, and a bunch of public land up there.
So would you consider yourself an avid bear hunter? Have you just started here recently, or how long have you been doing this?
I killed my first bear when I was 14 years old up by Reamer, Minnesota. My oldest son killed his. I want to say he was 10 or 11 when he shot his first bear. I gave him the tag. In Wisconsin, you can transfer a tag from an adult to a kid. So I transferred my bear tag to my oldest boy. He shot a 300, I think she was like 302, 303 pound sow, dried up sow. Didn't have any cubs with her that year. A couple of years later, Owen shot his first bear, probably 150 pound boar. That was a pretty memorable night. My oldest boy was out, I think he was 12 or 13 at the time. He was out archery hunting, crossbow hunting with the neighbor guy, and he shot his first buck with a bow, 6-pointer, little 6-pointer. And then I was texting with my oldest son, and I seen 100 and some pound boar come in, and Owen shot him 5 minutes later.
That's pretty cool. How about tell me about your first bear hunt up in Reamer?
We were hunting up by Reamer. We went in, set up. I shot about it was a little over 300 pound sow, no cubs, and still got her in the back room. I got a rug on her.
So when you're out bear hunting, I mean, obviously you do the whole bait thing, I would assume.
Yep, baiting. Like with my property up there, it's hard for me to get up a bait. So I got a neighbor guy up there that goes up and baits for me and does a heck of a job, and we hunt together.
So maybe you don't want to share this information, but what is the best bait?
In my opinion, it varies because it varies with the time of the year. As the acorns start falling, you just about have to have some nuts in the bait, or in my experience, it dries up.
So what is your guys' biggest bear that you've shot in the household? Who's got the biggest bear?
My oldest boy, 300. I don't know how much mine weighed. Mine was right around the same weight as his, but I'll give it to him. I'd rather have him have the title and for now.
Yeah, right. So I live right here in the smack dab central part of the state, and I moved to the place that I live right now about 5 years ago. And where I'm originally from, we'd get a random bear that would show up here and there. But the place that I'm at now, I mean, there's bear galore. I mean, there's just bear everywhere. And I actually dug a little water hole, and for some reason, I tell you what, I I think that might get overlooked sometimes with bear hunters. Maybe not. I'm not a bear hunter myself. I need to be because I have too many on my property. So if anyone has a tag for this area, let me know, because I might give you permission to come over and shoot some of these bears, because they're all over the place here by my place. But anyways, I get pictures of those things all the time in that water hole, bathing themselves and everything else. But I mean, it was routine that these bears are coming in. And I have some pretty good bears around on camera. But have you found that water is a great source for going bear hunting and attracting them?
Yeah, so I actually 4 or 5 years ago I drew a bobcat tag and I gave that to Owen. We went up and we hired a houndsman guide to guide us up in northeastern Wisconsin, up by Clam Lake, northeast of Hayward, a little ways there. So we're driving around looking for cat tracks all day, and I'm, he's also a bear guide, so I'm picking his brain. He's like, find the biggest berry patch you can close to water. So that was his tip to me, and it just stuck in the back of my mind. And this bait site that me and Owen were hunting on September 7th, it had all of that. There's this swamp hole right behind where we were sitting. There's some blackberries 100 yards to the south of us. There's some blueberries about 200 yards west of us. So, yeah, I think water's big. I mean, water's huge anywhere, even for deer. I mean, I dug water holes, and I'm going to dig some more water holes and put some more water holes in.
So would you consider yourself on these properties, because that's one thing I get caught up with, is like, when bear hunting starts is when I kind of want to, stay out of the woods to some degree for deer hunting. Have you seen, first of all, do you hunt the same properties for deer as you do for bear?
I do.
So do you see a difference in deer behavior at all when you guys are out there bear hunting? Does that kind of spook the deer off the property, or do they kind of stick around, or what have you seen?
I think you do move the pattern some. At least a mature deer, I believe you move the pattern some with baits.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I've kind of been a little timid with bear hunting, even though there's, like I said, there's bear around like crazy. But it's just like, I don't know. I might sacrifice the deer here a year or two. But the problem is, in my area, you got to wait about 5 years to get a tag, which is, in my mind, absolutely crazy, because
there's got bear all over. Yeah,
it's crazy, no doubt. But yeah, so we'll see what happens there. So you've mentioned your son Owen, and what was your other son's name?
Landon.
Okay, so do you just have two boys, or do you have more kids?
Two boys.
Just two boys. Okay.
Landon's 16 and Owen's 13 now.
So tell us a little bit about Owen, because he was with you on this day. Tell us a little bit about his hunting experience. When he started hunting. When did you first start getting him out there? I know one thing that parents and even myself included, it sounds like your boys are avid outdoorsmen already, but tell us a little bit about, like, I don't know if you had a strategy when they were growing up to kind of work them into the outdoors, or did they just follow along and just ended up, going with you? How did that work? Did you put any pressure on yourself to be, I really want to get these kids in the outdoors? Tell me how that process worked.
So I suppose Owen was 3 or 4, and I tried to just make it as fun as I could for them. They wanted to bring their iPads with them. They wanted to go sit in a blind, and I sacrificed some things. Like I went and put blinds up on the edge of food plots that I wasn't really enthused to be going and sitting on the ground and bringing three people, with scent into these places, but you sacrifice it because I wanted them to be there with me, and I think Landon was 6 and Owen was 3, and they wanted to go turkey hunting. So I hadn't turkey hunted all that much prior to that, and I went out and started buying some decoys and putting more blinds up and getting permission to hunt other properties so I could get into the turkeys, and having friends help me along the way with it. The turkeys in our family, turkey hunting's just part of the spring, and it kind of sucks because we got baseball involved. So I got both boys are on baseball teams, and traveling with baseball. You're trying to fit turkey hunting in when you can. But yeah, it's just, I made it as the best I could for them and keep trying to make it better, and bend over backwards for them to hunt. Really now when I go deer hunting, I'd rather see them shooting these bucks and bears. And, it's just, it really is an awesome thing to see.
100%. And I don't know. I tip my cap to you because I've heard of many stories of dads and whatever brothers just kind of shushing them off to the side and a little more selfish, and they're more worried about themselves shooting a big deer or turkey or bear or whatever, that rather than keeping the tradition alive and hunting. And like you mentioned with turkey season is a great opportunity to get the kids out. It's a fairly long season. I don't know what your season like is in Wisconsin, but as far as Minnesota goes, for our youth, they can kind of go throughout that entire season. So you can kind of pick and choose. If it gets warmer outside, you want to make sure it's not too cold for them right away. I know it sounds like you're babying them, but you want the experience to be a good one right away, right?
Yep.
So it's just making sure that the deck is kind of stacked in your favor for them to enjoy it. And like you said, with technology, whether it's bringing an iPad out, there's something to keep them engaged a little bit. I was very fortunate the other day. I took my daughter out, and she just turned 8 a couple weeks ago, and I brought her out behind my house here, and not knowing, I didn't expect to see anything as far as turkeys go. And once you know it, like 10 minutes into the hunt, a hen started calling back to me, and then she kind of worked her way off. So I was explaining all the things that were happening, and then all of a sudden, about 30 minutes later, there was a big old tom that gobbled right behind our blind, and it was walking right next to the blind, and it was really dry out, so the leaves were just crunchy and all get out. And just seeing her face, and I recorded it all, and just her expression on her face and the smile and her face turning red because she was nervous and didn't know what to do. That's a video that I'm going to cherish forever. And, by being able to capture that video too, hopefully she'll really remember that first time she heard a gobble, because the first time a person hears a gobble, it's pretty intense.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so obviously you did a great job working your boys into the outdoors, and obviously it's a lot of fun. Now, on this day, since that day, how crazy was the media with your story?
It was unbelievable. I had phone calls, I had emails, I had text messages from Good Morning America wanted me to come on there, and and it actually went international. The story went over in Europe, and yeah, it was. I couldn't believe the coverage it got.
Well, obviously it's a pretty insane story. Why don't you kind of take us back, if you would, please take us back to maybe the prep for this hunt. Like you said, I mean, were the kids going out there with you baiting this spot? Were you running trail cameras? Kind of take us back to kind of the first memories you had of this past season.
So we were running trail cams, and like I said, the neighbor was doing the baiting for us. I had a short window. To get Owen up there on the opening week of bear season, and I had Friday, Saturday, and then I had to be home for work on Sunday. So we went up Friday midday, took them out of school, got up there, put the food away in the cabin, got ready to go hunting. A neighbor came and picked us up, took us out to bait. We got in the tree. That was on Friday. And
so I'm gonna stop you right there. Did you have bears hitting the bait already?
Oh yeah, it was pretty much nonstop. We had the one bear that Owen ended up shooting. He was hitting a bait just about every night. I believe there was a short time there where, I believe right when the acorns started to fall, that he shut off. Or it seems like it happens every year when the acorns fall, the bears drive off the bait. But it was a short off the bait. It wasn't an extended bait not getting hit for days on end. I think it was like 2 or 3 days that it didn't get hit. And I want to say that was like the weekend right before the kill season was when it stopped hitting for a short time. Then it started up again, and they were, we were texting and calling each other, getting all excited for the kill season. Got up there on Friday, and he dropped us off. I don't know if we got winded or I don't know what happened. Bear never came in on Friday, and we sat and watched a doe and a couple fawns underneath the tree. And we got out of there and got out of there that night, went and ate supper, hung out at the cabin. Owen said he wanted to go fishing Saturday morning. So Saturday morning we jumped in pickup and drove down to a local lake, and he casted. He caught some northerns and smallmouth. So, well, I guess it's time to go. We're going to go eat some lunch and go get in the tree on Saturday. Right around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, neighbor guy pulled into the yard. We jumped on his four-wheeler with him and put it back to the bait. Jumped off the four-wheeler, got in the tree, got everybody tied in, safety harness. We were sitting there right around 6 o'clock. I was watching straight in front of the stand. I was watching, and there's kind of two shooting lanes. One off, I was looking just about straight west. There's a shooting lane to the southwest of the stand, and there's a shooting lane just about straight west. And on the straight west shooting lane, I seen a flash of a bear back down the shooting lane, and I told Owen, I said, "You got to stand up and get ready to get on the gun." He stood up and got on the gun, put it on I had a old tree peg I screwed into the tree for a gun rest for him. He had the gun on the gun rest. He was standing there for approximately 10 to 15 minutes, and the bear never came out. "Dad, can I sit down?" And I said, "Yeah, go ahead and sit down." And I just kept focused on them two shooting lanes, and I, just fixated on them two shooting lanes. And I never seen the bear cross the two shooting lanes. And Owen had sat down for no more than maybe 5 minutes. He's like, "Dad, bear, bear, bear." And I said, "Where?" And he pointed to the north, and I said, "Yeah, that's a good bear." I said, "You want to shoot him?" He's like, yeah, I want to shoot him." So I got him back up on the gun, and the bear walked up, quartering towards us slightly. I said, "Go ahead and take him whenever you're ready." And he shot, and the bear spun. He had to do 5 or 6 360s, and he was biting. Where he was biting was not where he was hit. But in my experiences, the bears usually bite near where they got hit. This hit was a little bit low and a little bit back.
What do you think was going on there?
I don't know. I don't know if he was just off with his bite. I don't know. But he spun around and he was biting right where, and, in my experience, like with Landon's first bear and Owen's first bear, I didn't find any blood for the first 50 yards or so from the initial shot.
How long did you wait after he shot there to get down and decide to go look for blood?
So 20 minutes, half hour, we got down, went and looked for blood because I wanted to use the daylight that we did have. 20 minutes, half hour, called the one neighbor, heard me shoot. He called the other neighbor, they all came out. We started looking around, and we didn't find nothing. And there was no doubt in my mind the bear was hit. We did a little bit of a grid search with the 4 of us. And believe it or not, we were within 30 yards of where that bear was. In broad daylight, we were within 30 yards.
What caliber gun was he using?
He was using a 350 Legend.
Okay.
350 Legend, 170 grain.
Which has killed other bears before.
Oh, yes.
Obviously. Yep.
Actually, he killed his first bear with a 6.5 Creedmoor. That he had to use that because he was more accurate with that than he was with 350 Legend. He wasn't, but that's what he had in his head. So
yep, confidence is key.
I wasn't gonna argue with him.
Right.
So we did the grid search. I looked at him and I said, "Unless we get a tracking dog out here, we're not gonna find this bear."
Were you confident? Were you confident that where you saw that hit was a killing shot, or were you kind of like, we're probably not going to find this thing, but we got to do our due diligence here?
No, I where the bear was biting, I really thought where he was biting was a kill shot.
Okay.
And that's what it looked like to me, and believe me, I play it back in my head a lot. I play a lot of this back. So my neighbor, his dog has found numerous deer, numerous bear. He's like, "Yeah, I'll go get Jake and bring him out. We'll trail him." I was carrying 10 millimeter pistol, and we're going through super thick brush, been clear cut 3 years ago.
How long has passed here from the time shot the bear to now?
At least an hour and 45 minutes.
Okay.
Um, it was 2 hours to 2.5 hours when the incident happened. Give or take, the chain of events that happened after we were with the dog was really crazy. So Owen was having trouble getting through the brush, carrying the rifle, and he was right on my heels. He was holding flashlights and holding the gun. I'd actually taken the rifle from Owen, so I was holding the rifle, the dog, and about 2 to 3 minutes prior to the incident happening, I thought, boy, this is really stupid, and I handed him the rifle back, and I told him, you got to carry the rifle. I had 10 millimeter 1911 pistol on my side. It's 9:30 at night, between 9 and 9:30, I don't know, and we got headlamps, flashlights going through this brush, and it almost makes you amazed that a bear can go through where this bear went through without making a trail, because I followed the dog through, and he was obviously on the blood, and coming through the brush, blocking my face with my hands, and there's some buckthorn in there and whatnot. And the dog yelped, and at the time when the dog yelped, I actually thought it was buckthorn. I thought the dog cut himself on buckthorn or cut himself on. It didn't dawn on me that that a bear just swiped at the dog at that time. I came through, and we were at the base of a big oak tree. It opened up around that oak, as you've seen in the woods, taking the sunlight from the forest floor, and it opened up a little bit, and I looked down, and literally 8 feet tops away from me was that bear at the base of that oak tree. His front legs were back, looked like a cat ready to pounce. And I said a couple of words, bear, 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 Owen Bear, he's alive. And I took a step to my left. I remember taking a step to my left, trying to give Owen a shot at the bear. As it charged, I pulled my 10 millimeter, and I was shooting from the hip. I did not pull the gun up to my eye. I was shooting from the hip. I never touched the bear. I remember the first shot going wide right. And I remember thinking, oh boy, you missed. It might not have been quite them words that I thought it, but and the next thing, he swatted at me and knocked me over. I got a scar from this knuckle to this knuckle I was, defensive, covering my face, knocked me over, grabbed me by my right leg. And I still remember the growl. And when he was coming at me, I remember the clicking of the teeth. And when he had me down, he was growling as he was shaking my whole body. At least is how I felt. I don't know if that's how it looked to Owen or not, but I felt like it would have been like watching a Labrador shake a rope bone, and I was a rope bone. I remember striking the bear 2 or 3 times, just trying to pistol whip it. I had the pistol in my right hand, swinging it as hard as I could, trying to hit him in the head, and I was hitting him. I know I was hitting him, and it felt like I was hitting a brick wall. I remember thinking I got to try something different, because in my mind, this bear is going to tear my artery in my leg, and I'm going to bleed out here. And I remember thinking, use the mag well or something. So I turned the pistol on the side, and I remember thinking, you got to hit it in the air, hit it in the ear. And I was aiming for its ear, and I think I hit somewhere between the ear and the eyeball, and the bear released. And I guess Owen told me I was screaming, shoot the SOB, shoot the SOB. And, we were both, me and the bear, we were fighting for our lives. And when he released, I remember looking to my right, because Owen was off to my right, and he was there, and I didn't see the bear going after him. And I looked back down, and I guess at this point I must have still had my headlamp on my head, because when I looked down, I seen teeth and claws coming from my face. And I covered my face with my arm. I got five bites in my right forearm, and I had 2 here and here on my wrist. From that, I was kicking and punching and fighting, and at some point, I remember the bear growling and feeling now hindsight, I don't know if it was the heat from its breath, like I thought I thought it was just heat from its breath, but I think it was when it probably when it bit my face, I felt the heat of the burn in my face. Got me here and here. I had I had a couple puncture wounds here. I had a cut on my left eye, hematoma under my left eye. I remember punching, kicking, fighting, and it's crazy. I heard the report of the rifle. I'd seen the muzzle flash. I felt the bear's weight shifting to my left, and I was like, when the weight shifted, I was like, it's time to go out of here, and I pushed him off, and I started rolling towards Owen. The bear was laying there kicking and moaning, and is what I didn't realize at that point in time is Owen had to clear a jam out of that 350 Legend because the gun jammed, and the gun had jammed. The gun had jammed in the stand, and I should have thought twice about it then, but I didn't. I just cleared the jam and went about our way, and so he'd cleared that jam, shot the bear, rolled over. I tried to get up. Oh man, my right arm hurts. Oh man, my right leg hurts. And I didn't even think about the puncture wounds that were in my right leg or the bites that were in my right arm at that point. I didn't really have everything happened so fast.
That's one of the questions I was going to ask you. I have a lot of questions. I'm sorry, but how long did it actually last? I'm sure it felt to you like eternity, but how long do you figure it actually lasts looking back now?
30 seconds.
Okay.
Tops.
What was the power of that bear? What like can you explain to us what the power of that bear felt like?
It was unbelievable. It was just 200 pounds of sheer terror, power. It was we figure the bear weighed between 200 and 220 pounds, live weight. It was unbelievable. I remember the first bite in my arm, and I remember the crunch, and I think the crunch was just the canine teeth breaking through my clothing and my skin. But I heard the crunch, and I thought, oh shit, how am I going to fight this thing off with a broken arm? I remember thinking that. It was just unbelievable, the power. When you're trying to hold your lab back or your dog back, most of them are 70 to 100 pounds. Well, think of twice of that trying to hold it back.
It's just absolutely insane. How many total teeth marks were there?
I don't really know how many teeth marks there were because I know there was 7 in my arm, there was 2 in my leg, and there was multiple in my forehead, eye, under my eye, here. I got 1 claw mark on my right chest, but I believe that was where he spun out when Owen shot him. I think he kind of spun out.
Was there any point during that time frame where you're like, I'm screwed? Or did you have confidence that something was going to happen where you were going to be okay?
I don't think I had enough time to think I was screwed. I think it was a fight or flight. I didn't have the flight ability, so I had to fight.
How about Owen? Does he replay the story similar to you, or were there things that he saw that were a little different than what you experienced?
We're pretty much aligned on what happened, and he doesn't like to talk to many people about what happened.
Yeah, and I don't blame him. That's why I thank you for coming on here with me and just listening to your story. It's tough, and I can't imagine you replaying it in your mind and whatnot, and so forth. But so Owen shoots the bear. The bear gets off of you. What happens next then?
So I'm trying to get up, and I'm like, first thing I do is, Owen, are you okay? And he's like, yeah, Dad, I'm okay. Are you okay? I said, yeah, Owen, I'm gonna be fine. And he looked at me and he's like, Dad, you're hurt bad. I said, Owen, I know I'm hurt bad. I said, but I'm gonna be fine. We're gonna get through this. And at that point, I knew that I had to keep his head clear. I had to keep him calm. Because if he got wound up, I was gonna get wound up. It was gonna end up nowhere good. Neighbor showed up. He got a little wound up. I was like, this is going to end up nowhere good. You got to calm down. We got to get out of here. At that point, I asked Owen, I said, do you know where we're at? And he said, I don't know where we're at. I asked the neighbors, do you know where we're at? I said, I'm all twisted. I know we're on the north side of our property, but I don't know where we're at. I don't know where north and south is right now. I got a pretty good idea. We got to go this way. And he said, well, let me call the other neighbor and have him come out to get us out of here. Said, yep, that's fine. You do that. And we used the sound of his tractor to start going, or actually we didn't, because I tried to open my phone. The crazy part is with my, I don't know if you, Joe, if you've seen the photos of my face.
I've seen a few of them.
So with my cheek laid open like it was, my facial recognition wouldn't open my phone.
Oh, no.
So then I was trying to open my phone, and I tried to hold it up in front of me like this, but I couldn't hold it up in front of me like this because then the blood was running in my eye. So I'm looking at it down here, and the blood's running onto my phone. And Owen said to me, Dad, give me your phone. I'll open your phone up. He hit my passcode in. Opened the phone up, pulled up the Hunt Stand app. All right, I know where I'm at now. We got to go this way. And we started going. And the other neighbor showed up. And he's like, you're hurt bad. You need to go to the hospital. You know, at this point, I'm thinking maybe I'll go back and put some Band-Aids on. Maybe before I seen him, maybe I'll put some Band-Aids on, you know. He's like, no, you need to go to the hospital. And I'm like, all right, I'll go to the hospital. So we're walking out of the woods, and I told you that I had to go to work the next day. So the first phone call I make is to my boss while I'm walking out of the woods.
Not 911.
Not 911.
I gotta call my boss.
So I call my boss, and he doesn't answer. So I call the next boss. He doesn't answer. I call my buddy from work, one of them, and I was like, hey, Scott, I'm not going to make it to the picnic tomorrow morning. And he's like, well, he kind of starts off, well, you know, this ain't really an optional deal. You got to be here. And I was like, Scott, I just got attacked by a bear. Just got mauled. He's like, did you call 911? I said, no, Scott, I'm not calling 911. I can get to the hospital. I'll be all right. Then well, did you call your wife? No, I didn't call my wife. I didn't call Allie yet. He's like, you're worried about work? I'm like, yeah. He's like, I'll make the phone calls. You go. I'll make the phone calls. You get off the phone with me. Call Allie. Call 911. Get an ambulance coming. I said, all right, I'll do part of that. I said, I'm going to call Allie. So me and Owen are walking out of the woods. And I called Allie, and I'm on the phone. I'm on speakerphone because I don't want to put the phone up to my ear and mess with my face. We're walking, and she's like, well, how big's the bear? Because I'd sent her a text right after he'd shot. We were sitting there waiting, and I don't know how big the bear is. I said, are you sitting down? He's like, yeah, I'm sitting down. Why? I said, I just got attacked by a bear. And she's like, oh, cut it out. You're giving me hell right now. And I'm like, no, I got attacked by a bear. And then Owen's like, no, Mom, he got attacked by a bear. We're heading to the hospital right now. So her and Landon jump in the truck and start heading up toward the cabin to the hospital up there. I called her so we get back to the cabin and told Owen, I said, Owen, go inside and grab my pickup keys so I could drive us to the hospital. He said, Dad, I'm not going in getting your pickup keys. You can't drive in this. Said, give me your phone. I'll call the neighbors. So we called the other neighbors. They came down, and the husband threw me in his pickup. He's like, get in my pickup. We're going to the hospital. I said, what about Owen? He's going home with the wife. His buddies at the cabin. So he went with their family to their house, and he started driving me to the hospital. And I said, well, maybe we should let the hospital know what's coming in. So I tried calling the local hospital. Of course, I get a recording. And then I'm like, I'm not going through all this. So I just called 911, and I'm talking to the dispatcher and explaining what's going on. And they're asking me a whole slew of questions. I must have answered one of them wrong because they said, we're going to have an ambulance meet you at the stoplight in Siren. There's only one stoplight in Siren. Pull in by the bank. So we pull in there, and there's two cops in there. The one cop shined his flashlight into the passenger window. When he shined his light into the passenger window and I watched the color fade out of his face, I knew it was pretty bad at that point. So he got me out of the pickup, and he's like, where did you all hurt? And my right arm hurts, my right leg hurts. He's like, all right, well, let's take your pants off. And he pulled out his scissors to cut my pants off. I was like, what are you going to do with them? He's like, I'm going to cut your pants off. I said, the hell you are. I said, these pants are $300 right now. You ain't cutting them off. No way. So he's like, all right, I guess you're going to have to take them off. Help me get my boots off. And I took my pants off. And there was, I think the bear must have hit a vein on the inside of my right leg because it was spurting blood pretty good out of there. So he wrapped that up with some gauze. And he's like, well, you want to try and take your shirts off too? He's like, I wouldn't recommend it. But I was like, no, I think I'll let you cut them off. So he cut my shirts off, and a short time later, the ambulance showed up, and the paramedic tells me we're about, I don't know, quarter to halfway to the hospital. He said, there's about a 90% chance that they're going to ship you to regions in the cities. You know, it's a small medical facility up in Grantsburg, Wisconsin. And yeah, I guess, you know, if they can't sew me up here, I guess I'll have to go to the cities.
Yeah.
So I called Allie, and she's like, I don't know where to go now. I said, just keep coming this way and figure it out when you get here and get in there. And the nurses and the doctors are good. And one thing I can tell you is if you ever have a cut on your face and you don't have any pain in it, lie and tell them that you do. Start some painkillers right away.
Oh.
Because when they put the lidocaine shots in up here by my eye,
Oh man.
it was by my eye and by my nose when they were putting the lidocaine shots in. It was unbelievable. It was the worst pain I had in the whole thing.
Oh man. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. I've had a few of those before on other parts of my body. Finger was pretty sensitive, but I feel your pain there, man. Like oofta. So go ahead. You may continue.
I had to tell the nurses to stop making me laugh. You know, they were just having fun and laughing and joking. It's like, you two need to stop. And they're like, what? I was like, every time I laugh or smile, my face hurts. They're like, okay. But the right doctor was on that night, and he was able to sew me up. He told me he could send me to regions. Told me he'd send me to regions if I wanted to go to regions. I'd have less scarring in my face. I said, nah, just sew me up. I said, my son's over at my neighbor's. I got to get back to him.
Oh my gosh. So you didn't go.
I didn't go to regions. I just had him sew me up there.
And you went back to camp.
Went back to camp. When I got back to camp, all my neighbors had skun the bear, had the bear carcass hanging in the garage. Garage doors closed. The only thing they left was a couple empty beer cans.
Did you sleep at all that night?
So funny story is they gave me pain medication to take. So I went back to camp, and I took a couple. Allie drove me back to camp. Both boys ended up at the hospital by this point. Went back to camp and popped a couple pain meds, and I think I might have dumped 3 or 4 bush lights down with pain meds. About 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, my phone was lighting up. Did you get mauled by a bear? Did you get mauled by a bear? Yeah, I got mauled by a bear. So,
man, did DNR ever talk to you about this story at all or anything? Like, did they have to question you or anything?
Yep, DNR came out, or didn't come out. He called me. It was the DNR officer in the area. I mean, going back to the kids. Before my boys were old enough to hunt, me and my wife had purchased this 40 acres. We'd purchased another 15, but after that. But right when we purchased the property, the neighbor guy had asked me for permission to run a bear bait for a learn to bear hunt program. Yeah, run, you know, it's how the learn to bear hunt program in Wisconsin worked back then. They would take a kid had to put an essay into the DNR telling them why they should get this learn to bear hunt program. So I believe it was the first year they ran the learn to bear hunt program on our property. The kid was from Milwaukee. His dad did some bird hunting, never had any interest in bear hunting or deer hunting. So I allowed the DNR to bring this kid out there and sit in one of my deer stands, put a bear bait out, and they ended up killing a bear. It would be 150 yards south of where Owen had shot this bear that got on top of me. So he called me up. We had a conversation on Sunday morning after I'd woke up. You know, he went through his questions. I answered them, and I asked him if they wanted the skull to test for rabies or any of that. And they're like, no, it was pretty much if you poke the bear and he swipes you, well, it's understandable.
Yeah. What are some of the side effects that you still have from that day?
I don't really have any side effects from it that I know of.
Still got mobility in your hand, arms, your
Mobility in my
face, no
hand.
numbness or anything?
Well, actually, I get a little, like, my face is numb, but every now and then I'll get a shooting pain across it.
Sure.
Nerves healing is what I believe it is.
Yep. Now looking back, like your thoughts about that whole situation, like is there any, that SOB bear, like what's your thoughts? Because obviously there was a moment there, right? Like is there anger towards it, or is there like, I don't know, I messed up, or what are your thoughts on that whole thing?
Well, I did mess up in a few places. I mean, when I didn't find blood, we started blood trailing. But I got a problem with it too because it was mid 70s. I don't think it got much cooler than that throughout the, it got a little bit cooler than that through the night, but it didn't get a whole lot cooler than that. If you leave a bear like that lay, the meat is going to be sour in the morning.
Yep.
So all in all, I would go back. I would have held the dog back a little bit slower, but I mean, I don't hold ill will towards the bear. The bear was doing what bears do. Like when we were fighting on the ground, I told one of the news we were both fighting for our life. That's
I don't know. I tip my cap to you because you are one hell of a sportsman. Because I mean, to have that mindset and whatnot, you have respect for animals, obviously. I mean, and that's what a true outdoorsman is about, is having respect for the animals. And even after that bear damn near took your life, you still have that respect for that animal.
absolutely, and that's I love seeing them. I love just being in the woods. It's where I am. If I could be there 24 hours a day, I probably would be.
I'm going to end with 2 questions, okay? First one, where are your pants now? Do you still have them, or they get tossed out?
Nope, still got them. They're in the back room.
Is that something you're going to hang on for forever?
Probably.
You almost have to, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
a couple holes in them.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be obviously a story your grandkids will hear, and great grandkids, and forever will ever be told. And the last question here, because I've kept you long enough here. Last question is, do you have a skull of this bear?
I have not got it back from the DNR yet. It is at the DNR, and it will be here. If I look over to my right, I got skull from Landon's, and I got a pig head in there. Awesome. I can walk you over to the bears that the boys previously shot.
Yeah, let's check them out here quick.
Are
you getting a rug made of this bear too, or just?
Nope. It's going to be a full body mount.
Oh, cool. Yep. Awesome.
So this one right here is Owen's first bear.
Wow. Pretty amazing. It's just, the story is I don't know, it's just unbelievable what happened. You got to make sure you send me your address here, because I want to send you guys some of our apparel and some other stuff for coming on this podcast with me. Make sure you let Owen know. We're thinking about you guys. This situation obviously has played a big impact on your guys' lives. Have you altered anything? Like, do you look at things differently now because of that day, as far as hunting or just life in general?
Yeah, I try not to take it as serious. There were times when Owen was having troubles with it, and I had to take a step back and look at everything, and it's not that important, that this happens or that happens.
That's a great point. There's a lot of things that we sit here and get so worked up about, even just everyday life. There's little things that will tick you off, but obviously they're not that important, because there's a lot of other things out there that are more important, and you just never know what the next minute will bring.
That's a fact.
No doubt. Well, I'll tell you what, Ryan, I'm going to let you go here. Like I said, I appreciate you coming on here with me. I really do. I know it's probably a difficult thing for you to talk about over and over and over again, because I'm sure you've done it enough times in your mind, but I really do want to appreciate you coming on here and talking with me and kind of going through all this. So I appreciate you coming on here, Ryan, and I appreciate all our listeners listening. Thanks again, and you have a great day.
Thanks for having us, Joe.
You bet.
Later.
Well, wow, what an unbelievable story, situation. Owen, his son, definitely, he's a hero, man. He's a hero to be thinking on his feet like that. with a jammed gun, be able to get the gun unjammed and be able to complete the task at hand. I know when speaking with Ryan, when he was speaking with officers, they said his 12-year-old son, acted in a way that they don't even know if most of their trained, officers could have. It just the heat of the moment, the situation. Owen is definitely a hero, and just speaking with Ryan too, asking him, at the end here, after we were done recording, I just called him up and asked him, what I should have asked you, what is some advice you have for other hunters out there? And one of the things he mentioned was don't track a bear at night. That was one thing he felt was important to share with everyone. And then the other thing was he felt he was moving too fast with the dog. He was letting the dog travel at its own pace rather than him traveling at his own pace and assessing the situation better. So those are just a couple tips that he has for you guys. Just be careful if you're tracking at night. He does not recommend tracking bear at night. And then also just assess the situation to the best of your ability and travel slow and move at your own pace. So those are just some things I wanted to share with you guys. Once again, I truly do appreciate you guys listening and following us throughout the entire United States and overseas. I see you guys that are out there, so I really appreciate that. And then also along with that, all of our partners, Arctic Shield, Domain Outdoor, J&R Outdoors, Skullcraft, The Fish Guide, TacCam, and then Fourth Arrow Camera Arms as well. Yes, if you would please, I really do enjoy doing these podcasts and making videos and putting them on YouTube and all that good stuff. And you guys are the ones that motivate me to continue to do this, like this podcast here. So if you would please give us a 5-star rating, leave us a review, follow, subscribe to all of our social media platforms. I truly do appreciate it. And with that, I'm going to cut you guys loose. Thanks for listening, and I hope you have a great day.